Jesus was asked this famous question, "Who is my neighbor?" He then proceeds to tell the familiar story of the Good Samaritan as recorded in Luke chapter 10. Now this story takes place in a first century context. What does that look like in our urban or suburban or rural context? What does that look like as someone who's retired or a full-time student or a stay-at-home mom or a single parent or someone who travels extensively for work? Well, as we look at the story, we see that our neighbor is whoever we come across as we go about our day-to-day lives. It's the people we work next to and alongside with every day. It's the students that we go to class with. It's the children that we raise, the people we sit beside on the plane. It's literally the person who lives across the hall or across the street or across the garden, as we say in Newfoundland. The second question is, how do I love my neighbor as myself? Again, we look at the story, and what we see is that the Good Samaritan didn't look the other way, but rather he responded with compassion. So when we come across the people in our day-to-day lives, instead of looking away from their mess, their hurt, their brokenness, their pain, their loss, or their grief, we instead respond with compassion and we meet them in the midst of it. So we ask the Lord to continue to grow a heart of compassion in us, that as we see the needs of the people around us, that we respond. Secondly, we simply take what we have on hand to minister to people in their brokenness or their hurt. We look at the Good Samaritan and he had oil and wine, so he took those and he bandaged the man's wounds. He had an animal, and so he puts the man up on the animal and transports him to an inn where he can be cared for until he's restored. Jesus doesn't ask us to take what we don't have in order to meet people's needs. He simply asks us to use what we do have. So what do you have? Do you have a couple of hours to take a single parent's children and care for them while they go and run some errands, or just even take a quiet bath? Do you have a home and a family that you can invite a lonely student to, so that on that holiday long weekend that they have someone to celebrate with? Do you have the availability to be able to dog sit or cat sit for the neighbor across the hall so they can take that much needed vacation after a difficult season? The point that Jesus is making here is not what we do, but that we do something. That as we go, we would go and do likewise.